FHS season tickets.
Welcome into another episode of FHS Season Tickets, back from a long spring break. I'm Michael.
And I'm Nick.
And today we're going to be reacting to the national title game where North Carolina did defeat Gonzaga 71-65. Nick, I'll get your opinion on the game first.
First of all, I expected this whenever these two, when I saw UNC in the Final Four after beating Kentucky, I just thought that they beat a pretty talented team in the Elite Eight a lot harder than what Gonzaga or any of the other Final Four teams were going to be facing. Well, South Carolina had a pretty hard run there, but I felt like that they were a way less talented team than UNC or even Gonzaga. So I kind of expected this outcome, and I was right where I was. Like they pretty much have everything that you want in a team, I would think. Like Colin Cowherd even said that everyone likes the triple-double or whatever, and then he pointed out that in rebounds, points, and assists,
top 12 in the country in all of them.
They're a top team in the country in all those stats. So I just thought they were super balanced, and that's preferenced by the stats that they put out all year. And Gonzaga was a good team, though. I think that was a pretty those are two similar teams. So I thought those guys were gonna fight in a bloody end, and it ended up turning out like that, but apparently it wasn't enjoyable for a lot of people. Mike, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, going back on your point, these are two of the most balanced teams in the country, I would say. Besides outside shooting, which both teams had much worse night than usual.
UNC has that. Joel Berry and Justin Jackson had that.
Yeah, and then Gonzaga, they also have Matthews and then Perkins, who are usually pretty solid.
Hit him too.
And Goss is another solid player. But overall, both these teams can do a lot of different things on the basketball floor.
They don't play from the outside of that, yeah.
No, they really like driving. They're good passing teams, good rebounding teams, good defensively. They have centers who can score in the post, and they also have people who can stretch from the outside, like Collins for Gonzaga. So both of these teams had a lot of different things that they do well on the offensive and defensive end of the floor, but they're also really physical. And it caused a lot of fouls to be played. And if you were following NCAA basketball Twitter throughout the game, probably 2/3 of the tweets throughout the whole second half were about the refs calling fouls. And I really think this is a closed-minded view by all these college basketball experts, because they don't really realize that only about 3 to 4 fouls, I would say, that the refs called weren't actually fouls. The kids are fouling so much these games now. Like, the defense, it's so much worse than I remember basketball used to be. Like, every single play, it seems like you can call a foul in a basketball game when they drive to the rim, it seems like. So I really think we need to, the coaches need to have some responsibility to teach their kids to play better on-ball defense and just not foul as much, because, yes, it is not enjoyable, but it's the ref's jobs to officiate the game the best that they have to do. And if the other teams are fouling, especially teams like Gonzaga, North Carolina, who are big, South Carolina, another very physical team, these physical teams are winning in college basketball because it's maybe that they're tougher, maybe that they just out-rebound and are better at defense, and that's what actually wins championships. You see a team like UCLA, they play probably the best offense in the country, and they lost to Kentucky in the Sweet 16, and that was a 50-50 toss-up game. Teams that don't play defense typically don't do that well, so sometimes in the national title game you get two of the best defensive teams, and it's kind of an ugly game. That's kind of the trade-off that you have to give. But Nick, do you think that kids are fouling too much these days, and how do we really fix this?
I don't know if it's too much. Maybe it's a mixture of both. I can't see that fouling has gone up that much. Maybe people are getting lazy, from back in, I don't know, what are you comparing it?
2012, 20...
Yeah, I couldn't see that it got spiked that much to the point where defense is that much different. Maybe it's a mixture of refs calling it now, and it definitely, people have started to not commit as much energy, or maybe the technique's off, but I don't really know too much of a fix, other than saying it depends on where you want to go with the game. Do you want to eliminate, the refs, like you said, have to officiate out of the rule book? They can't make up their own rules on the fly. So do we change? Is it time to change the rule book to the point where you change some of the rules, like you get rid of some, you change some of them, so there are less fouls called, so hand checks are allowed? Or do you, like you said, have the coaches coach defense a little bit better with technique and all that? But I think both processes are going to be hard and long to get rid of.
Yeah, you mentioned the hand check rule. That was a
Yeah.
rule that was just like recently changed that caused more fouls on the perimeter end of the floor that are either away from the ball or on the ball without a shot going up. So basically, I want to get much less fouls away from the ball and fouls on the floor, but kids are going to be reaching in more and playing the tougher in-your-face defense where they're like denying the ball. You're going to be seeing more fouls, and you have to officiate the game and make sure the game stays clean. Another thing people did mention is going to 4 quarters and resetting the team fouls after the quarters. Do you think this would make an impact? Because a lot of people complained at the 13-minute mark that both teams were in the bonus. So do you think that would do much?
Yeah, I mean, I do see a lot of people in the double bonus earlier and earlier in games, so I think that would actually be something to look into. I don't know if you can definitely do it, but everything's a process, and I think that things should definitely be, especially after the big stage of national championship game where this happened, things can be improved upon.
Yeah, another thing.
In the college game, I mean, the NBA game seems like it's fine.
Yeah, the
I haven't
NBA
seen like a game like that, and they're all enjoyable to watch, and I think that's the point.
there
Like,
was-
maybe if you're not calling fouls, that's annoying some, or just the way the game's moving in the NBA, but it's still enjoyable to watch, and I think that's that's the whole purpose of it.
There was the Grizzlies, I think it was Grizzlies-Pacers game this year, and the final score was like 72-68. I think that's maybe the only outlier you could really get all year.
Yeah, you're gonna.
I do think there is a lot more like really easy points in the NBA. Like I was watching the Warriors-Rockets game. I know really bad example because both of these teams have great offenses and aren't the greatest at defense. But the amount of just wide open dunks with nobody within 2 or 3 feet of the players was just ridiculous compared to the college game where people really work for almost every single point, even though it's definitely nowhere close to the level of basketball. Like NBA players, like a lot of different people I've mentioned, are just getting so good at shooting 3-pointers and scoring at the rim, and you see all the crazy stats that people are putting up. We'll make another video about our MVP pick, which there's been some great performances individually this season, but college games definitely way worse in terms of the skill level, but they work really hard for their points on, and the defensive end of the floor, I'd definitely say, at least in the NBA regular season, which is why I don't watch much NBA regular season basketball, is a lot better. The playoffs is a totally different story. I really enjoy NBA postseason basketball. Nick, do you have any differences?
No,
I know you
yeah,
enjoy
no.
NBA regular season a lot more than me,
Yeah.
so that's where we kind of differ.
I mean, there's so many stories that go along, and then postseason is just the pure excitement level, but just all the stories, all the changing of opinions up and down. I mean, 3 weeks ago, you could have said Harden was like 57% like over Westbrook if you're just comparing chances, but now you're gonna have to say Westbrook. I mean, just we'll get into our MVP picks like you said, but even like layers like Nikola Jokic, like just like bursting onto the scene his sophomore year, maybe even being better than Karl-Anthony Towns now. It's crazy. Or people have an opinion that he's doing better than Karl-Anthony Towns, but
a wrong opinion, but
you say you didn't watch regular season this year? That's what you said.
Towns is averaging 28, 12, and like 2 since the January 1st. Like
I didn't
no player
say
in the
that Jokic
league.
was better, but that's just what people, or like maybe better outlook in the NBA, but we'll see.
Okay, that's kind of a
See,
bizarre
this is
take.
why regular season in the NBA is so good. You got people like this. It keeps you on your toes.
People
let's just say.
reaching. What they're saying, like Deion Waiters is better than Klay Thompson too. Is that a
No.
new take? No.
No.
But another thing that people mentioned, Gonzaga has a ton of transfers, and there's a new thing called up transfers, where people transfer from mid-major programs after, let's say, their freshman, sophomore, or junior year, and let's say they're at a program like Cleveland State or a team like Siena or Old Dominion. You would transfer away from these programs and go to a team like Louisville, a team like Duke, a team like Gonzaga, and a Power 5 team. And that really has hurt mid-major teams, and it's kind of become a problem in NCAA because a lot of these mid-major teams, you think, oh, that team came really close to getting an upset, and their two best players are juniors. But to be honest, that's probably a problem because those two players are just going to leave for a bigger team. Do you like that the players have the freedom now to, after, let's say, their any season, they can just go, hey, I'm really good at this mid-major level, and I want to be, instead of the star in a mid-major conference, the sixth man at the, let's say, Wake Forest, for example. Do you like that the players have the ability to do that, or do you think that they should be more confined to staying with the college that they originally chose?
No, I think that, well, at least as a fan aspect, I mean, and a fan of none of the teams that either receive or have transfers leave usually, typically. I actually like the transfer system. It's fun. It kind of like changes up every year, and it's almost like recruiting in the sense, but you're recruiting people that have experience in the college level, older guys, so it really changes up the scene of it, like the championship scene of who's going to be in the picture down the line, and it's almost like trades that are happening, but not like free agency signings is actually what it would be compared to, so it's kind of cool to see. And the people that are getting the transfers aren't like the ones that are usually going to be good, like Duke, Kentucky. They're not getting the one and done programs. Even though I'm a Kentucky fan, I like to see the transfers go to like the Wichita States, like Gonzaga, obviously Indiana, who can kind of gear up on their own to go against the Kentucky's, Dukes. It kind of creates some sort of parity in the NBA or in the college game. Plus, like, who really cares about the mid-major conferences unless you're a player or unless you're a player, coach, or student, former student there.
Yeah, it does make the mid-majors worse and probably creates less upsets, but a guy, Gary Waters, he's the coach of Cleveland State. He's lost 3 of his starters who were underclassmen. You had Bryn Forbes, you had, I forget who the big man who went to Wichita State.
So they have no limits, so they don't have like.
I mean, they sit out a year.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
But they don't lose a year eligibility. So like Bryn Forbes left from Cleveland State, and then also I believe Trey Lewis left to go to Louisville, and also Anton Grady left to go to Wichita State. And Gary Waters went from having, I believe the team went like 22-12, and all 3 of those guys were set to return. And then they all left. This year they went, I believe, like 8-20. So they were horrible. Gary Waters gets fired, and I would say you can directly relate Gary Waters firing to all these players transferring to the better schools. Is it fair to the mid-majors? Probably not, but everybody loves player freedom, and that's something that I do like, but they're really not loyal at all to the school that they did choose. So that's a really hard... I've been a component for paying players for a very long time.
You've been a component of paying players?
Fan of paying players. Yeah, my bad.
Do you pay the players, Mike?
Nick,
Hey, you heard it here first.
You're the English guy here. I'm the math guy, the stats guy, okay?
Mike's paying players, baby.
Hey, if you could, they should. I mean, the only problem with that, I mean, you obviously get into the legal battle. How much do you pay them? Do you pay...
Hey, that's a story for another day.
Do you pay Tim on the track and field team as much as Lamar Jackson? So that... No, you don't.
I forgot about him.
But yeah, Tim, the track star in Louisville.
Lamar Jackson.
First team All-American, doesn't get a cent. Why? Because they make no money, guys. Nobody cares about college
Mike's
track.
coming for their necks.
Yeah, Tim, you better watch out, even though I just made you up.
Mike's coming for the jugular. There's definitely a Tim Hunter at the Louisville track.
He thinks an All-American?
Maybe.
Oof. What if he's watching this right now? He's like, there's some creeps. They know my name. Anything else you want to hit?
I mean, Tony Romo retired. That just reminds me of who called this epic downward spiral in the beginning of the year. It wasn't a downward spiral. So you're telling me that Tony Romo wouldn't say this season was down? No, he wouldn't call it. It was an
injury.
Yes,
and
that's a downward spiral, or injury that catalyzed the downward spiral.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. That's why he's retired. Do you think he actually wants to retire?
I don't think Tony Romo got any worse at football.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He didn't get any worse.
So it wasn't really a downward spiral.
His talent, I didn't say his talent, his career downward spiral.
Yeah, I guess his career.
He was starting of a team that would have went to the playoffs with him But nope.
What? No way they would have made the playoffs with him. They would have been 6-10 with him, even with that defense. And
Yeah, that's
Ezekiel
what some
Elliott.
people would say. That's what Stephen A. Smith would say. But anyways,
That's what Skip Bayless would say.
he retired, and I'm happy for him that he's getting a multi-million-dollar job without having a speaking role ever in his life. What did he replace? He replaced the guy, Phil Simms, CBS head. He was the head guy, and they're replacing him with Tony Romo. Heck? That's their fault. I'm not gonna listen to a CBS broadcast.
Yes, you will, because CBS broadcasts the Browns. So if the Browns
they're gonna be like, so Tony, I guarantee this is gonna pop up with every game. Like, what would you do in this situation, Tony? You were a quarterback.
No huddle, hand it off.
Like, well.
No, but that's why I kind of like Tony Romo, because he's a young mind who just got out of his playing days. For an announcer, he really is young. And then also he played quarterback in a huge market, and quarterback is one of the positions that you kind of affiliate knowledge and football IQ with. How many wide receivers do you go, oh yeah, that wide receiver has great football IQ? You never really hear that. It's really only quarterbacks and maybe middle linebackers, because they're the quarterback of the defense. But I like Tony Romo going. I kind of made this analogy. It doesn't totally work, but Steve Kerr was hired by the Golden State Warriors after having how much head coaching experience before? None. Look at how that worked out. Most regular season wins in the first 3 years.
He knew how to talk to an NBA locker room. Has Romo ever gotten in front of a camera before?
Okay.
No,
but he still has experience preparing for football games and
talking
scouting
to other the defense, the whole
and
football
the team.
He has. But to get in front of a camera, keep an audience interested for 2 hours.
It's not just him. It's
not just him. He's gonna have 2 other people, but he's replacing their head guy,
who everyone hated. Legitimately, Nick Wright had this tweet. He's just like, I don't even care if Tony Romo is gonna be good, just as long as he got Phil Simms off of my TV stand on Sundays. That's gonna be a positive, no matter what he does. People hated Phil Simms.
That's true. I don't know. I'm not bagging Tony Romo. I'll just think the hire is kind of premature. But who even knows if he's going to be doing it? Maybe he finds a football team or something. But that's all I had to say about that. Do you have any other sports topics you got to talk about?
What if Romo did this so he could get cut, and then just so he can sign with any other team now? Because the Cowboys were just going to keep him as the backup quarterback. And he's like, hey Jerry, I'm going to go into broadcasting, and then he just leaves them. That would be a hell of a storyline.
Yep.
Jerry would be pissed.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of FHS Season Tickets. See you later.